The supreme leader of Iran, Ayatollah Ali Khamenei, has finally gone too far, and Donald Trump made a rather tough statement about Iran today, declaring that after this, Iran is facing inevitable collapse. United States President Donald Trump stated that he is completely abandoning the idea of lifting sanctions against Iran. After the recent statements by the Supreme Leader of the Islamic Republic, Ali Khamenei, claiming that Trump exaggerated the consequences of the strikes on Iranian nuclear facilities, and who threatened to repeat the slap that Tehran allegedly dealt to the American army in the Middle East. In his social media post, Trump stated that for several days he was indeed working on the possible easing of sanctions and other measures that could help Tehran recover quickly and definitively. However, according to him, in response, he received, quote, a statement full of anger, hatred, and disgust, after which he immediately stopped all efforts to reduce pressure on Iran. He described Khamenei's statement as outrageous and foolish. In addition, Trump today rejected rumors that the United States allegedly also planned to stimulate Iran's economy by $30 billion if they agreed to the nuclear deal. And these are very alarming signals for Tehran. We'll talk about all this in more detail in this episode. My name is Pichy. Next, we'll break everything down step by step. But before we start, I ask you to subscribe to this channel, like the video, leave any comment under this episode, and be sure to subscribe to my Telegram channel. The link to it is in the description of this video. There we post breaking news as it comes in. So Ayatollah Ali Khamenei seems to have overstepped and ruined another attempt by Trump to find a diplomatic solution. Trump stated that after Khamenei's remarks about the United States and himself personally, there will be no easing of sanctions against Iran, even within the framework of the increasingly elusive nuclear agreement. Trump completely abandoned the idea of lifting sanctions against Iran after Khamenei's statement that Iran had won this war, that Trump exaggerated the consequences of the strikes on Iranian nuclear facilities. But what angered Trump the most was Khamenei's statement, in which he claimed that it was Iran that supposedly slapped the American army, and that Tehran was ready to repeat this slap. And after that, Trump stated that Khamenei, as a man of great faith, should not have lied, at least to his own people. He once again repeated his claim that as a result of United States strikes on Iranian nuclear facilities, their infrastructure was destroyed. At the same time, the president added that he personally ordered not to eliminate Khamenei, although, according to him, he knew exactly where he was. And now I'll quote Trump, which fully shows his resentment. It was me who saved Khamenei from a very disgusting and shameful death. It was me who ordered Israel to recall the planes that were ready to launch a massive strike on Iran in response to the missile attack that happened after the ceasefire agreement had already been reached. If Tehran does not return to complying with international norms, the situation for it will only get worse. And let me remind you that the day before, the Supreme Leader of Iran congratulated his supporters on the platform X for their victory over the American regime, claiming that Washington directly entered the conflict to save Israel. But the United States allegedly achieved nothing. Quote from Khamenei, "I congratulate you on our dear victory. This American regime intervened in the war because it understood that if it didn't, the Zionist regime would be completely destroyed." Well, now the lifting of sanctions for Iran is out of the question, even though Trump even hinted that he was ready to allow Iran to return to the global oil market. 3 days ago, Trump stated that China could buy Iranian oil after Israel and Iran agreed to a ceasefire. The White House stated that this does not mean an automatic easing of American sanctions. But now, no one will sanction China for such purchases of Iranian oil. They say, we're not lifting the sanctions, but okay, let China buy more Iranian oil, we'll just turn a blind eye to all of this, as they say. Back then, Trump even resorted to praising Iran. The United States president pointed out that Iran still hadn't tried to close the Strait of Hormuz to oil tankers, since that would be a problem for China, the largest importer of Iranian oil. And just 3 days ago, most commentators noted that any easing of sanctions against Iran would mean a change in United States policy. After Trump publicly stated in February that he would resume maximum pressure on Tehran to completely stop Iranian oil exports because of its nuclear program and funding of militants in the Middle East. So it would seem, why wouldn't Iran make a deal and start getting rid of these sanctions? But no, Khamenei decided to keep playing for victory. Let me remind you that the conflict between Iran and Israel escalated on June 13 when Israeli forces launched a military operation against Iranian nuclear infrastructure sites. In response, Tehran attacked Tel Aviv using drone missiles. On June 22, the United States joined Israel's actions by carrying out airstrikes on 3 key Iranian nuclear sites in Fordo, Natanz, and Isfahan. According to CIA Director John Redcliffe, these strikes caused significant damage to Iran's nuclear program. In response, Iranian forces launched missiles at the American Al Udeid air base in Qatar, but the facility did not sustain serious damage. Later, citing sources among Iranian officials, it was reported that Tehran had warned Qatar in advance about the impending strike. According to the publication, Iranian authorities coordinated their actions with Qatari officials to avoid casualties and to maintain the possibility for de-escalation of the conflict. And soon after that, Donald Trump announced the implementation of a ceasefire between Iran and Israel. Both sides confirmed the information about the truce, and it seemed that the war was over. Well, and Trump had already managed to announce that negotiations between the American and Iranian delegations were being prepared for the following week. But Iran has already publicly refused to negotiate and even decided not to allow International Atomic Energy Agency inspectors into its nuclear facilities anymore. But that's not all. Donald Trump reacted sharply today to a publication that claimed his administration was allegedly considering giving Iran $30 billion to develop a peaceful nuclear program, in exchange for Tehran giving up uranium enrichment and the development of nuclear weapons. And today on the social network Truth Social, Trump called this information fake and another hoax spread to damage his reputation. Here is a quote from Trump. Anyone in the fake news media who claims that President Trump wants to give Iran $30 billion to build non-military nuclear facilities is a scoundrel. I've never heard of this ridiculous idea. It's just another hoax spread by fake news to discredit me. These people are sick. Earlier, citing its own sources, it was reported that the Trump administration is discussing proposals to provide Iran with multi-billion-dollar aid as part of an agreement that would help avoid further escalation and prevent Tehran from acquiring nuclear weapons. According to sources, these funds, $30 billion, may not be provided directly by the United States of America, but, for example, by the Arab states of the Persian Gulf, with whom it is claimed relevant negotiations were held even before the escalation between Iran and Israel began. In addition, it was reported that the package of possible proposals includes lifting some sanctions and unfreezing $6 billion of Iranian assets held in foreign accounts. It was also reportedly discussed to restore the damaged Fordo nuclear facility with financial support from the Persian Gulf countries on the condition that the restored nuclear infrastructure could not be used for uranium enrichment. But here is where there is an inconsistency. Trump himself, as we already mentioned in this episode, did admit that he rejected the idea of easing sanctions pressure on Iran, after the supreme leader of the Islamic Republic threatened to repeat a slap to the United States in the region. And he even admitted that the idea of easing sanctions was indeed discussed in the White House. Now he says no, that's all a lie, there were no such ideas. But in any case, it looks like Iran had a chance to get out of the situation even in a winning economic position, but Tehran refused it. And now Trump is once again publicly saying that the United States is ready to strike Iran again if necessary. I'll leave it at that. Share your opinion and conclusions in the comments below this episode. Subscribe to the channel, hit the bell, and don't forget to like. If you want to support the work of this channel, you can do so financially by donating through the links and details in the description of this video. That's all for now. Take care of yourselves. Goodbye, everyone.